Chapter 1. As I walked out of the hospital's maternity ward, the pregnancy test report in my hand made me feel utterly lost. I was pregnant, and I was already a month along. But my boyfriend, Pato, had been diagnosed with myeloma, and my family was already struggling to pay for his mother's medical expenses. There was no extra money to raise a child. Just as I was about to leave, filled with worry, I suddenly saw him, cornering a young nurse and flirting with her in the hospital corridor. My eyes widened in disbelief. Something was wrong. Pato, who was supposed to be bedridden with myeloma, should be at home recuperating, not flirting with nurses. Before he fell ill, he had repeatedly rejected admirers who had shown interest in him, claiming to be devoted to me. Since his illness, he had rarely gone out, and I had hidden the fact that I was missing my period from him, especially the man standing before me. He looked so healthy and confident, completely different from the pale and frail man I knew. My boyfriend was supposed to be coughing and gasping for breath from even a short walk. I thought I must have made a mistake. But just as I turned to leave, a group of people approached him and escorted him into a ward.
Yo, Noah.
What's the deal with this sick boyfriend act? You're fooling around with the nurses again.
Pato.
You're really something. You can fool even the nurses with your fake illness. Your acting skills deserve an Oscar. Man, we all admire Pato's intelligence. He pretended to be so sick to get Lair to donate her bone marrow. Without her, he would have to find someone else. And that would be more troublesome. I hid in the corner, watching the man being praised, my heart pounding. The test report in my hand was crumpled tightly. My hands trembled uncontrollably. My whole world seemed to collapse. I was certain now that the healthy and carefree man in front of me was the same man who had pretended to be sick and deceived me. Pato smirked and leisurely exhaled a smoke ring. I just needed Lair's bone marrow, so I played along. She's so gullible. I can just fool her with a few sweet words. Lair is so stupid. She dropped out of a prestigious finance program just to take care of me when I was sick. What a fool. I bit my lip so hard that a metallic taste filled my mouth. My boyfriend of 3 years, the man I had been so devoted to, had been insulting me in front of his friends. He was implying that I was a brainless fool who was easily deceived, a dirty little secret he could play with at will. My heart felt like it was being torn apart. Tears blurred my vision. No one noticed me hiding in the corner. The others continued to praise him. Pato is truly a genius. He took advantage of Lair's family's decline and accelerated his takeover plan. He even manipulated Lair into working at a nightclub, then played the hero and rescued her, making her completely devoted to him. Didn't Lair graduate at the top of her class in finance? She gave up everything for you because she was so broke and needed someone to take care of her. What a fool. Some of his friends couldn't help but ask Pato about his plan for pretending to have myeloma. Pato smiled playfully and replied, Lair's bone marrow is a perfect match for Celia. By donating her bone marrow to Celia, she'll feel like she's doing something useful besides being my bedmate. I clenched my fists so tightly that my nails dug into my palms. I had been blind to his true colors all this time. Chapter 2. A sharp pain shot through my stomach, and I leaned against the wall, retching violently until blood came up. Celia, Pato's white moonlight, had broken up with him to study abroad.
Now,
she was a top-tier celebrity, with the Jiang family's backing. Pato had told me he had severed ties with Celia long ago and had rebelled against his family to pay for my mother's expensive medical bills. Worried about burdening him, I had willingly become his secret lover. And when I found out he was sick, I dropped out of school to take care of him. But it turned out that it was all a lie. His illness was fake. He had only pretended to be sick to get me to donate my bone marrow to Celia. My whole body felt like it was submerged in ice water, and my blood turned to ice. A sharp pain in my heart felt like 1,000 knives were twisting inside me. I heard that the donor of bone marrow is more likely to die prematurely. In this way, Pato can get rid of Lair and win Celia's heart, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. It's Lair's good fortune. if she hadn't looked a little like Celia. Before the speaker could finish, Pato angrily threw his burning cigarette at him, scorching the man. How dare you compare Lair to Celia? Are you insulting Celia? Let me tell you, she's not even worthy of being compared to Celia's toenail. Celia is a top-tier celebrity, and Lair is just a cheap prostitute. When I'm tired of her, I'll let you all have a taste of her. His friends laughed lewdly, echoing his words. Pato treated me like a plaything, tossing me around for their amusement. My lips trembled, and my eyes burned with anger. I wanted nothing more than to rush in and kill these beasts. But a remnant of reason held me back. I had a mother to take care of,
and she had raised me.
I couldn't let her down. I had to leave. I had to take my mother and leave this devil. With trembling legs, I started to walk towards the exit. I hadn't taken a few steps when I bumped into a woman wearing a mask and sunglasses.
Ouch.
I instinctively wanted to apologize, but before I could, she slapped me hard across the face. The loud slap and the sharp pain in my cheek made my ears ring. My stomach ached even more. Blood gushed from my mouth as I fell heavily to the ground. I looked up and saw Pato tenderly supporting Celia, his expression gentle and caring. He didn't even notice me lying on the ground. I curled up, breathing heavily, my eyes filled with despair. Celia was clinging to his arm coquettishly.
Noah.
Why did it take you so long to come? I was so worried when I heard you were sick. He held her hand and looked around, seemingly oblivious to my existence. His voice was soft, as if he was afraid of startling her. I'm fine. I was just pretending to be sick to fool that stupid Lair. The doctor said you needed a bone marrow transplant, so I had to do it. Celia's expression turned urgent.
Noah.
I need your help. News about my tax evasion is about to break out. You have to find a way to suppress it. Chapter 3. Pato's expression didn't change, and he stroked her nose playfully. Silly girl, what's got you so upset? It's just a little tax evasion. I can easily handle it. He didn't specify how he would handle it, but instead pulled her into a passionate kiss. Taking advantage of the chaos, I managed to crawl away, ignoring the bloodstain on my clothes. The first thing I did was to contact the hospital and transfer my mother to a different facility. I used Pato's name to get my mother discharged and packed our belongings. When my mother asked me why we were leaving so suddenly, I made up a story about a new treatment for her illness being developed in another country. She was hesitant at first, but eventually agreed to leave. When we were about to leave, Pato showed up. His face was dark and his fists were clenched. Lair, where are you going? Don't you know that you're sick? How can you leave me like this? His voice was full of authority, demanding an answer. I sneered.
Pato.
Stop pretending. You're not sick at all. You were just pretending to be sick so that I would donate my bone marrow to Celia. He was momentarily stunned, but quickly recovered.
No.
You've got it all wrong. I didn't give him a chance to explain. I told him everything I had seen and heard at the hospital. Pato, if you have even a shred of conscience, let me go. Impossible. He grabbed my wrist tightly, and his eyes narrowed. Lair, donating your bone marrow to Celia is a blessing. She's about to become a top celebrity, and you'll be part of her success. I struggled against his grip, my eyes filled with tears. And what about me? What about my life? He ignored my question and continued. If you leave, I'll tell your mother everything. I'll tell her how you betrayed her and how you're nothing but a gold digger. I felt a chill run down my spine. He was threatening my mother.
Pato.
You're a monster. My mother has a heart condition. She can't handle this kind of shock. I was weak and helpless. I knelt down and begged him. Please, I'm pregnant. I can't donate my bone marrow.
I'll die.
Chapter 4. Pato's pupils constricted when I mentioned the pregnancy. He grabbed my shoulders and shook me violently, his eyes cold and emotionless. Get rid of it, he commanded, his voice icy. I realized then that the slap he had given me had damaged my right ear. I couldn't hear him clearly. The word bastard echoed in my mind. I clung to his sleeve, begging him,
Pato.
It's your child. How can you be so heartless? My voice was weak, and I was about to faint. I was so desperate that I was kowtowing on the floor. He hesitated for a moment, then shoved his hands into his pockets. Celia has acute leukemia, and she needs your bone marrow. And who knows if the child is even mine? I fell to my knees scraping against the rough floor, drawing blood, but I felt nothing. I went to see my mother, who was being held against her will in a care facility. She was frail and confused, but she still recognized me and asked about Pato. Lair.
Noah. Married.
Baby. Grandson. She was so happy when she thought about our family. I promised Pato that I would have an abortion and donate my bone marrow to Celia in exchange for him continuing to care for my mother. Because I had signed a bone marrow donation agreement, no reputable hospital would perform an abortion on me. Pato took me to a shady clinic where Celia was waiting for me. As I lay on the operating table, they held my hands, one on each side. Lair. After this, we can go back to how things were before, Pato said. I turned my head away, unable to look at him. Celia leaned in and whispered in my ear, I know you're trying to steal Noah from me, but let me tell you, he loves me. He used you to get my bone marrow. I didn't know what she said next, as the anesthetic was starting to take effect. When I woke up, I was in a hospital bed. My body ached, and I felt empty. Celia was sitting beside the bed, looking at me with pity. Lair.
I'm so sorry.
I didn't know things would turn out like this. I looked at her, my heart filled with hatred. She had taken everything from me, my love, my health, and my future.
Chapter 5.
My name was trending on Weibo. Several hashtags related to me and Pato were plastered across the trending list. Hashtag Pato secret lover exposed. Turns out to be a nightclub escort hashtag. Hashtag Lair, the heiress who became an escort after her family went bankrupt hashtag. Hashtag shocking. Explicit photos of Lair leaked, revealing her wild side hashtag. As I scrolled through the trending topics, a cold dread crept over me. My lips turned pale. I clicked on the first one. There it was, a private photo of me that Pato had taken when I was drunk, my chest exposed. There were also explicit photos of me from my time in the nightclub. My face was clearly visible in the photos. My name was highlighted in bold, and the comments were vicious. People were calling me names,
spreading rumors about me.
They said I was a gold digger who had plotted this whole thing to marry into a wealthy family. They even claimed I had slept with my teachers to get good grades. My alma mater's honor board, where my name was engraved, had been defaced with vulgar words. When I read the comments saying, she's so ambitious and scheming, she even killed her parents to inherit their wealth, I couldn't take it anymore. I spat out a mouthful of blood. My phone was ringing nonstop. I saw dozens of missed calls from my mother. I rushed to see her. Instead of a comforting embrace, I was met with her harsh words and slaps. Lair, I raised you to be better than this. You're a disgrace to our family. How could you do this to us? How could you betray Pato? She was so disappointed in me. I knelt at her feet and begged for forgiveness, but she pushed me away.
Get out.
I never want to see you again. Her words and her heartbreaking expression haunted me. I was dragged away by Pato's men. As I was leaving, I saw Celia standing there, a smug look on her face. Lair, you thought you could steal Noah from me? You're so naive. My revenge against you is just beginning. Chapter 6. The Abyss. Every night, the incessant ringing of my phone kept me awake. Pato had me confined to a basement, my limbs bound with ropes, and denied me food and water. Within half a month, I had lost 20 pounds. I was weak and frail.
Then,
Celia and another man entered the basement. I realized what she meant by revenge. The man was a sleazy old guy who had been a customer at the nightclub. Celia gestured for him to approach me. Lair, a former nightclub escort, you don't deserve to be with Pato.
Today,
You're going to get what you deserve. I was drugged. As the man tried to assault me, I fought back as much as I could. Pato arrived just in time to kick the man away. But when Celia told him that I had seduced the man, he stepped on my face. "You're such a slut." "Lair," he spat. "Your mother is dying."
And you're still thinking about men.
When I heard about my mother, I struggled to break free. I begged him to let me see her one last time. But Pato just sat there, watching me struggle with amusement. Celia secretly recorded everything and sent the videos to my mother. I was dragged across the floor, my face bruised and swollen. Just as the man was about to tear off my shirt, a servant rushed in with urgent news. "Sir, the woman." "The woman?" Pato's face turned pale. What happened to her?
She
She had a heart attack and passed away. I couldn't believe it. My mother was gone. Celia looked at me with a triumphant smile. "Lair, you've lost everything. Now you know what it feels like to be completely alone." Chapter 7. The Descent into Darkness. "What are you saying? How could Mom have died?" Pato's face turned ashen, and he collapsed to the floor as if his soul had been ripped from his body. When we arrived at the crematorium, Mom's ashes were already in a simple milk powder tin. He was so cheap that he couldn't even afford a proper urn. Looking at the messages on Mom's phone, I was filled with rage. I lunged at Celia. "It's all your fault. You sent those photos of me to my mom, saying I was back in the nightlife business." Pato stepped between us, glaring at me. "Don't blame Celia. She's not that kind of person." I couldn't fight him, so I watched helplessly as she deleted the messages. Seeing the cleared chat history, Pato looked at me with even more disgust. "Lair, you're a liar. If you hadn't been a nightclub escort, your mother wouldn't have died of a heart attack." He pushed me to the ground and hugged Celia. Enraged, I scratched his face, leaving a deep red mark. "It's your fault. If you hadn't ruined my family, I wouldn't have had to become a nightclub escort. You killed my mother."
and you.
"Celia, you joined forces with Pato to spread those rumors about me. My mother will haunt you in your dreams." Celia trembled, pretending to be scared. "Noah, my heart hurts. I think I'm having a relapse." Hearing this, Pato immediately supported her and turned to me. "Your mother is dead, but you still have to donate your bone marrow to Celia. It's the only way to atone for your sins. I'll take you to the hospital for the surgery soon." I clenched my fists and glared at him.
Pato.
"I'd rather die than donate my bone marrow to her." I tried to escape, but he kicked me, scattering my mother's ashes. Pato looked at me with cold, calculating eyes. "Lair, saving a life is a noble act. You should be grateful for the opportunity to save Celia. My mother always said that you were a benefactor to our family. You should do as he says. If you refuse, I won't let you see your mother's ashes again." I collapsed on the floor, tears streaming down my face. My heart was broken. Chapter 8. Pato was insane. He sent people to clear away all of Mom's ashes. He also said that as long as I donated bone marrow to Celia, he would marry me and give me the identity of a legitimate Mrs.
Jiang.
In order to keep Mom's last remains, I had no choice but to lie on the operating table. The glaring white light shone on my chest, and my tears fell involuntarily. The cold scalpel danced before my eyes. But strangely, the anesthesiologist did not act. Just as I was wondering, the original doctor took off his white coat, revealing his true face. He helped me up and softly called my name.
Lair.
"Do you remember me? You once came to the orphanage to sponsor me when you were a child." The tall figure constantly overlapped with the figure of a small child in the orphanage. I suddenly realized and pointed at him, saying, "You are Andres?" My parents liked to do charity work and had sponsored the renovation of the orphanage many times. When I was a child, I went to the orphanage with them to participate in Children's Day. I once got lost, and it was a thin little boy who took me to find my parents. So, I took special care of this little boy. What I didn't expect was that Andres had excellent grades and went abroad for further studies with a full scholarship thanks to his outstanding abilities. Hearing the news that I was threatened by Pato to donate bone marrow, he immediately planned to come to the hospital and become the attending doctor. He took my hand and came to the unconscious Celia, his expression indifferent. Do you know? Celia is not sick at all. She lied to you and Pato. I was stunned. Then why? Why would she do this? The corners of Andres' mouth twitched because she was jealous. Jealous that you were once by Pato's side. So she wanted to use such an extreme way to prove that Pato loved her. A bunch of lunatics. An inexplicable sense of disgust welled up in my heart. I held back the churning in my stomach and watched him cut open Celia's skin with a knife. After taking out her healthy kidney, he threw it into the trash can specially used for disposing of postoperative items. Didn't Celia want you to donate bone marrow for nothing? Then I will use her own way to treat her. He removed a healthy kidney from Celia and used the name of donating bone marrow to make a reasonable explanation for the incision. Celia, who was already worried that the lie would be exposed, naturally did not dare to investigate further. She only thought that the doctor's acting was realistic. After waking up, she showed off to me, who was also lying on the hospital bed, deliberately trying to provoke me and force me to leave. Pato came to me with the diary that Mom had left behind, crying bitterly. The diary was filled with my love for him and Mom's beautiful expectations. Lair, I know I owe you and Mom. Don't worry. We will get married after you recover. Forcing you to donate bone marrow to Celia was because it was helpful for her to seize power from me. Now the Jiang family is in my hands, and I can finally do whatever I want. He hugged me tightly, a clear tear falling from the corner of his eye. I love you. I really love you.
Lair.
I hate myself for not realizing my feelings for you sooner. I want to marry you. I want to give you the identity of a wife. A bitter feeling welled up in my heart, and I fearlessly met Celia's hateful gaze, wrapping my arms around his waist. I nodded gently in agreement. In my mind, I recalled the scene when Andres' eyes were burning, and he made an agreement with me. Lair, if you want revenge, you need to be patient and lie dormant. I need you and Pato to put on a show. Life is like a play, and when it ends, it will be the time for great revenge. #, Chapter 9. Pato took me to the Jiang family mansion. The luxurious decorations dazzled my eyes. He held me in his arms, beaming with pride, and confidently introduced the interior design, saying it was all in the chromia style that I had once mentioned to him. The baby bed hanging with small toys made a rattling sound. He took my hand and solemnly promised, Lair, I know I was wrong to make you have an abortion before. We will have children. No more. I will never have children again. I answered silently in my heart. My face remained unchanged. I just smiled and nodded, letting him take me to see the wedding dress, choose a wedding room, and see a suitable cemetery for Mom. Her photo was as vivid as ever, but the cold black marble stung my eyes. A gray Kian not far away was flashing its lights, and I took the opportunity while Pato was kneeling and kowtowing to transmit the company's secrets. The day before the wedding was the day when Pato took over as the chairman of the Jiang family's company. He was dressed in a suit and dressed for the occasion. However, he was removed from the board of directors because the reserve price of the urban construction bidding conference, which was related to the family's prosperity, was leaked. He became penniless and destitute. When he found me, he was already full of tears and collapsed and questioned me why I did this. I slapped him in the face. Pato, you harmed me and made me unable to have children for the rest of my life. And Lair's family went bankrupt. If it wasn't for Andres, I would have been hollowed out of my bone marrow and died on the operating table. Pato was stunned in place and knelt down with a plop, grabbing my wrist and begging, Lair, give me another chance. Give me a chance to make up for you. Okay? I saw Akai coldly. Can you bring my mother back? Just one sentence made him cry bitterly. I'm sorry.
I didn't expect Mom to die.
He already knew what Celia had done, but ridiculously said that he didn't even think about this level. I slapped his cheek again. the force so great that I staggered back. Pato, you have power and power, but you use pretending to be sick to deceive and deceive, wasting other people's sincerity. Do you know that because of you, my right ear can no longer hear? I have become a lifelong irreversible disability. Andres held up a red umbrella, firmly protecting me under the umbrella, and helped me into the Cayenne with heartache and left. Through the rearview mirror of the car, I saw Celia rushing into his arms, but was pushed away hard and fell to the ground. Later, Andres relied on his talent to become the leading boss of a pharmaceutical company, contacted the strongest legal team, and collected the illegal and criminal acts of the Jiang family over the years. Pato was involved in leaking company secrets and misappropriating public funds to Celia to suppress scandals and was imprisoned for financial crimes. Celia lost the protection of the Jiang family and her scandals of tax evasion, sleeping with underage fans, and robbing resources were all exposed. The civil case was upgraded to a criminal case. She couldn't accept disappearing from the spotlight and went directly insane. In the end, she was locked up in a mental hospital. Pato was unshaven, and his cheeks were deeply sunken on the day he was sent to prison. Standing in front of the police station, staring at me in a wedding dress standing next to Andres, tears flickered in his eyes. I held the bouquet and took Andres to Mom's grave. I threw away the diary that was once filled with gratitude and admiration for Pato, and put on our marriage certificate with Andres.
Mom,
I finally succeeded. In heaven, you can rest in peace.